So there's these boots that everyone seems to be using with high movement speed, high evasion rating. A lot of them also want deflection. And then this Essence of Horror mod, 100% increased effects of socketed items. And you can also get it so you can guarantee a resistance. I've seen some people make them, but they talk about the prefixes and like the horror mod, but not the suffixes so much. So I thought about it. I think there might be a way that we can get it so that this craft, like this that you're seeing here, is almost guaranteed. So increased effects, socketed gems, tier 2 movement speed, high evasion rating, deflection, all of that. And the maths I did makes it seem like it should on average cost about 10 divines to make, whereas most of these seem to be selling for 15. So I'll show you the method I came up with. Let's see. So I've gone out and bought these exceptional dragon scale boots. These are item level 79. These can only hit tier 2 movement speed. These cost 40 exalted orbs for that. If we use a perfect orb of transmutation, we actually can't hit movement speed on these because, let me show you, this thing guarantees minimum modifier level of 70, and the only modifier, at least the only prefix we can hit there, is tier 1 movement speed or tier 1 hybrid. But our boot base is only level 79, so the only prefix we could hit is this. So we actually need to use a greater orb of transmutation and a greater augmentation. So this is a 1 in 7 to hit movement speed. You can go out and buy a whole lot of these bases, or because these things cost about 40x each, it's actually cheaper to just go for the annul. So the first step we want to do is we're going to annul aug until we get tier 1 movement speed. Well, tier 2 movement speed, which is the highest tier we can hit on this base. The reason that these boots are so popular is that with the Essence of Horror mod, 100% increased effects of socketed gems, there's these things, Farrell's Rune of the Chase, which are worth like 10 divines each. They're super expensive. But if you put 2 in your boots, you can get like 50% movement speed boots. When we hit a prefix, it's a 1 in 7. So that's a suffix. And then we can go there. That is tier 1 movement speed. But I've got another base. We can try that. Fire res and mana. At this point, we can just annul, and we hope to annul off the prefix. And there we go. We got the movement speed. And it should be, let's see, annulled off the prefix. Okay, there we annulled off the suffix. Lightning res, evasion rating, annul off the prefix, evasion rating, mana. Okay. You can, instead of buying annuls, just get a whole lot of bases, but the price is literally the same. So now the next step is, this is where I think I divert from other people. So I want to use a greater essence of enhancement. This guarantees approximately, what is it, tier 3% evasion rating. So we use this and we got top roll on that. Now, at this point, we can get the Essence of Horror mod. This is going to remove a random modifier and then add this modifier. If we use Omen of Dextral Crystallization, it'll remove a suffix. This will mean that this annuls the suffix and then adds this mod. So we can do that. All right. And then this is when it gets a little bit expensive. So I want to now use an Omen of Homogenizing Exaltation. So Exalted Orb will add a modifier of the same type as an existing modifier on the item. Currently, this thing only has the Of Essences, which has no tag, and then defenses from evasion rating, and then speed. So again, if we look over at Craft of Exile, we've got speed. This is the only speed tagged mod. And then defenses, we have flat evasion and deflection. We can use a perfect exalt. These are quite expensive. They're about 2.3 divines, but it guarantees a minimum modifier level of 50, which means we should be guaranteed tier 1 deflection and tier 1 evasion rating. So I'm going to use Omen of Greater Exaltation. Will guarantee 2 exalted mods. Homogenizing Exaltation means that we get modifiers that are the same as existing mods. In theory, we should only be able to get deflection rating and flat evasion rating because we've got one empty prefix to get flat and then the other modifier it has to add has to be a suffix, but it presumably has to be a defense suffix. So let's see. And it did work. So we got the tier 1 evasion rating and the tier 1 deflection. And now the next step is we have an open suffix, right? The only modifier we have left is a suffix. So if we use let me just show you again on Craft of Exile. So we can guarantee certain modifiers here. If we instead opt for like an Amanamu modifier, we can aim for one of these. If you don't use like the Amanamu whatever Ulaman, then you can hit like this or this. But let's say I want lightning and chaos res. We can actually guarantee this. Or you could go for reduced movement speed penalty from using skills while moving. All of these. So let's actually just check the trade site. These are ones with lightning and chaos res. Is there one with, let's say, movement speed penalty? Like, is this one valuable? 45 divines? 45 divines? What we can do is we can actually force this mod by forcing on an Ulaman modifier, Omen of the Sovereign, Preserved Rib, and there's only 3 things it can unveil. So, wait, what? Omen is incompatible. What am I doing wrong? Why? Is this a lie? You had that too? Is that a bug? You can only use Liege Omen. It's a tooltip issue. So wait, this thing is bugged? Gives guaranteed name mod is just for jewelry? Well, that's ass. Well, in that case, how much is an ancient rib? 120? Bruh. Okay, well, since these boots are so pretty. So we got our ancient rib, and then I also want an echo. I also want this one because we're using quite an expensive one. This will allow us to roll it twice. So I guess ancient rib. There's our suffix. We must activate this before we go to the Well of Souls. And then we unveil. So we could go for res, or let's just see what we get. 37 fire res. 37 fire res is pretty sick. We could actually just check the trade side and say like, let's remove this and then check out the price of like fire res 35 res, 35 res. I mean, depending on what you need. If you profit crafting, although profit crafting is dead after this, these ones are still, they're just all worth like 15. Let's re-roll it for science, hoping to hit the reduced movement speed penalty. Strength and dex, fire res. So I don't know why the Ulaman thingy isn't working. That's a pain. Strength and dexterity. 7 divine, 10 divine. Okay, go with fire res. Yeah, so here's our boots. We're sitting at 700 evasion rating and deflection tier 1, fire res tier 2, socketed gems, movement speed. So we can give this a price check. Let's see, 12 divine, 14 divine, nice. Okay, so that seems like a pretty deterministic craft to me. I can now sell these for around 14 divines. Mine are not corrupted. Yeah, so another thing, by the way, is that these aren't corrupted. So there might be some mad lad out there who buys these, who wants to go for like triple. So that could also further increase the price. Yeah, sorry, last price check. We can see like 19 divines for uncorrupted, 19 for corrupted, 20 corrupted, 24 uncorrupted. I don't know, I'll put it up for like 19 or something before the rest of you start crafting these. And there we go. That's at least how I do it. Hopefully this all made sense. I'll do a written guide for these. Yeah. All right.